What's up, duelists? Brand new Vayu Turbo list. I was thinking about this deck a lot, and I was like, man, why don't people just play triple Dark Grepher? This card is kind of crazy good. It starts off all of your busted stuff in the deck, and then on top of that, if it survives a turn and you get it activated again, you almost certainly win the game. So I was like, why not? Why aren't people just maxing this? Like, why are we getting too cute with all the Raiko stuff, with all the hamster stuff? Let's just cut all of that and make this a really brain dead aggro deck. Because you know what? At the heart of all of us is someone who just wants to summon 4,000 points of damage and attack directly. And by all of us, I mean me. So some of the deck choices are based off of the fact that I just want a Grepher spam and Armageddon spam. And that's pretty much the point of the deck. Yeah, the deck does have some exploitable weaknesses. Both versions of the deck do. But this one is definitely more aggressive. And I think it's more punishing when your opponent just messes up or makes a mistake or maybe just has a slower start, doesn't have the back row to sort of deal with your stuff. We are not playing any trap cards. We're just playing double Royal Decree, triple Book of Moon. I think that this is because I am looking to win in the earlier stages of the game. I am not looking to have this deck go to the late game. I think that the Archlord Christia decks, the other decks, zombies, the other decks that once they get set up have crazy stuff going on, then those decks, they're better for the later game. I think those decks have more explosive potential, Miracle Fusion, that kind of thing. I don't think activating a Vayu in the late game is nearly as good as it is activating it on the first few turns of the game. However, you have to be able to clear your opponent's board for that to be even good in the earlier game. So that's why we have double Royal Decree. That's a way to clear trap cards, and then a way to clear set monsters. We have double Nobleman, and we got Mind Control in the main. And I think, although double Nobleman can be dead against Blackwings, you do have triple Book to make it live. And then on top of that, you should be pretty favored versus Blackwings just because you have triple Sirocco, double Decree, and then you have Caius, which is a really good tool in that sort of matchup, I guess. Royal Decree shuts off all their interaction. Yes, Black Whirlwind can be tough game one, but as long as you draw your Book of Moons, you should be okay, good to go. Sideboard, we got triple Vanities. It's like the best sideboard card in this type of deck because it doesn't conflict with Decree. It actually complements Decree really nicely. It also complements Book of Moon really nicely. Usually your opponent only has one play, so they'll make their one play, and then you can book it or you can knock it, and then you win because Vanities is a huge monster and it attacks directly and nothing can stop you. I've got double Doomcal. This is kind of like Nobleman 4 and 5. I didn't want to side the third Nobleman because, like, that's just too much. And Doomcal can help you against Glass, which can be a bad matchup for this type of deck. I've got double DD Crow. This is interaction under Royal Decree. I've also got double Deck Dev, double Light Mirror for fairies, and double Royal Oppression, which I didn't side in at all. I'm considering not even siding these moving forward. I think the format, outside of Quick Draw specifically, and Frogs kind of, has moved to a spot where Royal Oppression isn't really that great against most of the top decks. It's good against zombies too. But against zombies, I'm actually thinking more Royal Decree and then like keep them off their normal summon is kind of a better plan. Because when they are going for their big push turn, that means they've cleared your back row. They're not going to ever really be forced to go for a push turn until they've cleared your back row. What if you have Royal Decree and you're stunning their openers and you're hitting them for 1,000,000? That's when that deck kind of struggles. Actually, I've noticed. But in any case, we'll get into the replays. I got 4 replays for you guys. First replay is against BWR91. I'm just gonna show both hands so you guys can see what's going on today. Sometimes I'm gonna reveal some, sometimes I'm not. Opponent opens up the absolute nuts, brain heavy Dust Shoot Whirlwind with a normal summon, but he can't play him because he has to pass. Our opening hand here kind of sucks. Had we gone first, we'd have Decree for this Dust Shoot, and we'd probably be okay. That being said, since we are getting Dust Shooted, he knows our cards, and it makes it very difficult for us to actually play this game. Return Vayu, I set Decree and I set Space Typhoon. I think that he is on Blackwings because he didn't normal summon a monster, but he did set Trap Dust Shoot, which means he probably has Siroccos in his hand. I need to have Space Typhoon set for the Black Whirlwind, and I need to have Royal Decree set for the Icarus attack, potentially. He draws Call Haunted and just passes the turn. He doesn't want to play into anything, basically. I pick up Armageddon Knight, and again, I don't really have a great way of, like, engaging with Sirocco the Dawn without committing heavily into Heavy Storm. He continues not to set any back rows, so I'm thinking his hand is probably Sirocco, Whirlwind, Heavy Storm. I actually had the most insane accurate read here because I knew exactly what was going on after I saw this Dusty resolve. Even though there's no real reason for me to think that, I knew. All right, you just know sometimes. He goes End Phase, discards Sirocco, confirming my suspicions, which honestly I think is kind of a sus play. I feel like you should just set the call. Like the call's never going to get better, or just set the heavy storm, or just use the heavy storm, you know? Like it's not really going to get better, but I guess he's just waiting for the right turn. On this turn we pick up Vayu, and I'm like, okay, if I set Vayu and he goes for his thing, then next turn I can Armageddon, send Sirocco, and then special summon Dark Arm maybe. No, I don't do that yet. Never mind. I hold out. I hold strong. I hold strong. He picks up Icarus attack, which is another reason to commit the Call the Haunted. I mean, that Call the Haunted's never resolving because I have Typhoon, Decree, Heavy Storm, whatever. Like, it's just never going to happen. And then I pick up my second Decree. So I kind of bricked this game. I just drew all four of my Spell and Trap hate cards, which is awkward, but that's just going to happen. I set the Vayu. Of course, we got Dust Shooted. Heavy Storm happens. Clears the Royal Decree. Here comes Whirlwind. Searches Gale. He already has Bora. Specials Bora. Pumps up his guy. And then attacks over the Vayu for 3,700. We take 3,700. He passes a turn back. We pick up another Vayu. So I've drawn 3 Vayus this game. My kingdom for a fucking Greffer, right? So I summon Armageddon. I go for this play because it's basically all we have. But I know I'm dead to brain control here because that's basically what he's going to have. I have to bounce my own card. I special Dark Armed. I pop his 2 monsters. I attack directly with both. I have to set Heavy Storm and Book of Moon. And I have to hope his only play next turn is a normal summon. But he has brain control, so we're kind of fucked. Pretty much. So that's going to be game 1, which is tough. I mean, we got Dust Shooted going first. We drew triple Vayu, and that can sort of happen with any one of these decks. Obviously, Royal Decree would have been Royal Oppressions from the other deck, but you can see how that would not have done anything either. So similar sort of hand you could have drawn in the Raikou version, just imagine Royal Oppression as Royal Decree, and it's still not good. Like, we still just bricked and died. In any case, we get to go first this game. I do actually board in Vanity's Fiend versus Blackwings. I think it's fucking insane versus Blackwings, especially with Royal Decree. They basically have to have Kalut or they can't out it. And if you have Book of Moon plus Vanities plus Decree, they basically can't play. On our first turn, we go Greffer, pitch Vayu, send Sirocco, activate Vayu, bring out the Armed Wing, set Book, set Heavy Storm. So if he has a normal summon, we can book it. If he doesn't have a normal summon, then we win, basically. That's it, pretty much. He turns out he wanted to crow the Armed Wing, which is fine. That's totally chill. That's just gonna happen. He's gonna trade the crow with our discard, which is cool. Here he sets Bora and he sets his Icarus and he sets his Mirror Force, which I'm also cool with. Honestly, I'm happy that we ate the crow there and not later on a turn where it was crucial that we resolved our Vayu. In any case, we go to main 1. We resolve Greffer again. I send actually the second Vayu. I misclicked there. So now we have Vayu, Sirocco in the grave because our Greffer stuck around. Opening Greffer's busted. I go for a Heavy Storm, just force the Icarus, because I know, like, once I get rid of all of his back row here, that way I can just stick a Vanities, and then that can probably win. And if the Vanities doesn't win, that means he has to go Monster Kalut over the Vanities, and then Sirocco can answer that. So I sack for Vanities, and then attack for 2,400. I also still do have access to an Armor Master in my grave with the Vayu. He draws another DD Crow, but that's not going to do anything. He sets the Bora. I attack over it. He draws Heavy Storm, not going to do anything. Attack for 24. We don't set anything. I just don't want to commit into an Icarus attack. Basically, if his only out to this is Icarus attack, I want him to be forced to blow up his own cards. I draw again. Again, we don't set anything. We just attack over his guy, pass the turn. He sets Blizzard. Again, we draw Smashing Ground. Doesn't really matter. We just attack over his guy, pass the turn. He sets another monster. Here we can summon Greffer and then Mind Control for game. So, yeah. Pretty easy one. Vanity's Fiend is actually really insane versus Blackwings, if you can stick it at the right time. Obviously, earlier in the game, it's much worse than later in the game, but a late game Vanities versus Blackwings usually crushes them because they can't do anything without their Kalut or without their back row. Okay, this game, he opens up DD Crow, he opens up Icarus. He's got some stuff. He summons Shura, passes the turn. Now, if I'm the opponent, this is kind of an interesting start, but it's going to get him owned because we have Space Typhoon. We're able to space his back row. Go Sirocco, pump, attack over the Shura. This is definitely why you want to play 3 Siroccos, so you can just pump over these starters, not worry about Kalut, that sort of thing. I set my Book of Moon, and I'm pretty much in a great position here. He goes ahead, sets Road, sets Mind Control, passes the turn. Oh, summons Sirocco and then passes the turn. I'm pretty shocked he didn't attack here, but he's probably just waiting for next turn to summon the Kalut and then pump attack to safely attack through Mirror Force. But that doesn't make any fucking sense because he doesn't have a way to stop my attack. So I'm just going to pump my Sirocco and attack him. Even if one of his sets was Icarus attack or Mirror Force, he should have definitely at least tried to attack me here. Because if he doesn't, then like he's 100% losing against Sirocco. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I pump, I attack over, because this is the right play even into back row. So even if the bluffs are real cards, pump Sirocco, attack his Sirocco is the right play anyway. So he should still try to send there with the Sirocco. In any case, he passes the turn, he sets Mirror Force. I pick up Heavy Storm, but that's just going to be game. I can heavy, even if he has Road, I have Brain for Stardust, and then I have like Giga Lethal. I'm just going to summon Armageddon Knight, and that's going to be that. Armageddon Knight there can send either Plague or... I think I was thinking Plague. Yeah, something like that. I don't really know, but that was going to be that. In any case, that's how you dismantle Blackwings. You just keep them off their normal summon and then hope they make one tiny little error that you can punish. He should have attacked with his Sirocco. I would have booked his monster, but it would have made a slight difference, I think. I would have maybe been a little bit more cautious. I would have missed out on some damage. It would have been a different game for sure. I don't know if it would have panned out the exact same way where he was dying right now at this point. Maybe, but who knows? In any case, next game is up against JSV. JSV is a little bit newer to Edison, so I only got time to play 4 matches with this before I had to record. In any case, he recharges, he mills 2, summons Card Trooper, he mills 3, he attacks for 19. We take 19, he passes a turn. We went first and then we passed back because I had Cyber Dragon and I wanted to special my Cyber Dragon before going for my other plays. Here, we're going to get rewarded. We're able to allure. I banished the wrong card. I should have banished a Grepher here instead of an Armageddon Knight. I special Cyber Dragon. It doesn't end up mattering, but it could have ended up mattering if we didn't top deck something later on. Anyway, special Cyber Dragon. I make Chimera Tech. I explained to him how Chimera Tech works. I summon Dark Grepher. I pitch Vayu. I send Sirocco. I banish both. I special Gale. And then I attack directly for 73. This puts him below JD range. So even though if he's able to make JD, he can't out the Armor Master that I'm going to make main 2. And then later on, I can use Grepher plus Necrogarna to set up a Vayu for that Armor Master or for this Armed Wing. So yeah, that's kind of the positional thing I'm trying to set up here. He does have Beckoning Light, but he doesn't really have great moves with it right now. So we just pass. He picks up Super Nimble Mega. He activates Recharge, draw 2, mill 2. Specials JD, sets the Hamster, and passes a turn after attacking over the Armed Wing. He makes the correct play of attacking over the Armed Wing. You want to kill Armed Wing because it's the only one I can synchro with to make Dark End to out JD. He Gold Sarks for JD, he attacks over the Armed Wing, and then, passes a turn, mills 4, and he mills triple Herald of Orange. So he makes one small error here. It's a pretty big error, actually. I pick up Rhoda. This is where saving the Armageddon Knight would have mattered. I Rhoda for Armageddon Knight. I go for it, and I know his back row's Beckoning, but I know he's not going to use it because I know he's a newer player. So I go Armageddon, send Plague, and then I make this play. But had I known that he was not a newer player and that he wouldn't make this mistake, I wouldn't have summoned the Armageddon Knight here. I would have gone for trying to put a wedge counter on the JD, basically, and that would have been my game plan. It is a little bit awkward because, like, if I go for Bionic, right, on the Plague Summon, he just goes Beckoning Light, bring back double Herald. And that'll stop Bionic. So I'm not sure if I actually have to force it now. I think I might even have to make this play regardless. Yeah, and if he goes, like, let's say I stack for Plague. I make Bionic. He goes, when Plague is summoned, he activates Beckoning. He pitches, brings back Herald Christia, something like that, or Herald Soul. And then I go for Bionic. He heralds a Bionic. I can put a wedge counter on JD, and if the set monster is Raikou, then it can get bad. But because the set monster is Hamster, I think I'm likely to win this game anyway, because he can't out the Armor Master next turn, and then we can just attack over the JD basically to make it 0 with the Armor Master's wedge effect. So yeah, pretty much that's the game plan. If he had Beckoning for the 2 Heralds, and he would be top decking, and he would have to top deck basically another JD, or he would lose. So yep. That's pretty much that. This game 2, starts off a little differently. Starts off with Jane, set Beckoning, end phase mill 2. In general, you don't want to set Beckoning too early like this. And if you have an opener like Jane and recharge, you want to recharge because you have Card Trooper as well. Card Trooper is just a better opener than Jane. Recharge, pitch Jane, draw 2, mill 2, gets your whole deck going. Could potentially even get you to a turn 1 Christia if your Card Trooper mill's lucky. So I think that this is definitely not the optimal opening, but again, he's a newer player, so like, no disrespect or anything. Dark Grepher, pitch Sirocco, send Vayu. This is mostly just to showcase how the deck works. We make Armed Wing here. I figure I'll just play into Honest. I'll attack. If he has Honest, then I can dust shoot his guy, book his Jane next turn, and then set up Vanities. And it burns the Honest, which is one of the deck's few outs to Vanity's Fiend. And if he doesn't have Honest, then I just fucking win. So here, I let the charge resolve. I figured I didn't need to dust shoot him until after everything is said and done. Here comes the search. He gets a little ahead of himself. He slams the JD on the table, but on the resolution of charge, I am going to trap dust shoot. So, yeah, I mean, I was going to do that either way because he has 4 names now, so obviously I have to do it. And then we take the JD, obviously. He still does have a lot of play here. He can recharge, pitch Raikou, sort of put something together, mill 2. He goes Card Trooper, mill 3, misses on some fairies. Gold Stars for JD first, mills 3. He goes up to 3 fairies, but not quite 4. One thing he could have done was actually Beckoning Light, discard his hand, add back JD, add back Christia, and then actually just kind of beat us, but we do have DD Crow. So we can at least, in response to his Beckoning Light, DD Crow his JD, and even though he is going to drop Christia, we will have Book of Moon plus Vanity's Fiend to deal with that Christia. So it is like, it is not that bad. Like either way, even if he had made the right play, we would have ended up winning this game because we just DD Crow the JD, and he can't get that back. And then he goes for, I guess he could go Lila Christia. Yeah, Lila Christia would be complicated. That would complicate things for sure. So if he goes Beckoning, we chain DD Crow, we hit JD. He pitches both. He gets back Lila Christia, but he's already normal summon Card Trooper this turn. So then next turn we can summon Vanities and win. Yeah, I think we're fine no matter what. Yep. Okay, we pick up our own Card Trooper, but it's better just to get Vanities down ASAP in case he has Beckoning, which he does have. He finds Lila after a certain point. He pops back row. We chain it. Here comes Doom Caliber, and this is going to prevent them from using Honest, then main phase 2 Beckoning. So that's going to be the game. You guys get the idea. Easy clap. That's how it's done. This sort of matchup can be really tricky, but I think this deck is kind of slated to beat it pretty well. We have the Noblemans, we have the Mind Control, we have fucking Doom Calibers, Vanity's Fiends. DD Crow, I'm not sure if I'm going to side in this matchup ever again, but it can randomly be good, especially because you just have like heavy Space Typhoon, which are pretty bad. Sometimes I'll even Space Typhoon if they like decide to leave in their decrees, and then you can side out like pretty much every trap but Dust Shoot. So yeah, kind of totally blanks their Lilas too. Next match is versus Yugioh. So against Yugioh, I think I win. No, I lose. I lose every single rock, paper, scissors in these replays. I think I go 0-4 on rock, paper, scissors. I'm pretty sure. Dark Greffer pitches the Sirocco. We're playing a mirror match, but he's playing an even more aggressive version with Foolish, Telekinetic, and like compulsories and shit. So it's just like hyper all-in OTK deck. We start off with Dark Greffer, and I make a serious game-losing misplay. I should have just Space Typhooned his back row. I don't know why I didn't. Honestly, I should have just Space Typhooned it. I was predicting, like, okay, if it's bottomless or it's Royal Oppression, I can, like, get cute and then wait. But, yeah, I don't know. Sometimes the Vayu decks that I play against have Royal Oppressions in the main. Most of the time, actually. And so I don't really want to Space Typhoon blind into a Royal Oppression because that card's not going to do anything against me. But in all honesty, I should have just Space Typhooned it because if this Dark Greffer sticks around, spoiler alert, Dark Greffer is broken and it enables OTK. So that's exactly what happens here. I attack with Dark Greffer, we get compulsed, and I'm like, fuck. I could have summoned the Vayu and the Sirocco, but basically I'm just hoping his hand is full of back row, and I know it's not because I know he would have set them. Most definitely at least one other one. So I'm just like, okay, I'm super dead here. He can just do basically anything and kill me. Draws 2, banishes the Sirocco, Armageddon, send that guy, Foolish, send the other guy, and then just like makes a bunch of synchros. Just plays into Torrential, doesn't give a fuck. Makes Stardust, doesn't give a fuck, makes Armed Wing, and that's going to be lethal damage. So yeah, that's the power of Dark Greffer. He didn't even really need to summon this Armageddon Knight or like have the Allure or have the other shit. He could have just like done he could have done it a bunch of different ways. That's all I'm saying. He could have done it a bunch of different ways, and we would have died here because our only piece of interaction is Space Typhoon because I played a little bit too conservatively. I've said recently, I did a stream where people were asking me to rank the most fun mirror matches to least fun mirror matches. I think one of the most fun mirror matches is the Blackwing mirror match when you have like Black Whirlwinds and stuff. I think that mirror match is really fun. I think one of the least fun mirror matches is the Vayu Turbo mirror match, because this sort of shit just happens. Sometimes your opponent just opens up with like their power cards and you don't, and then you lose. And you just don't have the right piece of interaction. You have like a plague of Vayu, another Vayu in your hand. You're just like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this shit? In any case, that hand is a hand we could have drawn in any version of the Vayu deck, just for whatever reference. We have Greffer, we have the Vayus, we have Kayas, all of the decks play them. It's just, we drew not as explosive of a draw as our opponent did, and that's just what's going to happen when we're both playing all-in decks. This game, we have the better cards. We have Return, we have Brain Control, and we also have Vanity's Fiend. Now, this matchup, he has Compulsory, he has Gale. I know these two things. I don't know if he has other additional outs to Vanity's Fiend. So we need to be a little bit careful about when we summon this guy. He kind of needs to be sort of a mid or late game guy. I go for Greffer, I go for Armed Wing, and this is just the nuts. If you have Return plus this, it's pretty fucking hard to lose, because you can just deal like 8 trillion damage the next turn, and then Brain Control will pretty much guarantee you the game later on. So this opening, Greffer, pitch Vayu, or Sirocco into Armed Wing plus Return, pretty much a guaranteed win in almost every single circumstance that I can think of. Gale's going to get summoned here, and I'm like, okay, that ticks off one of his outs to this Vanities. Maybe the Vanities is going to be really good. That's another good thing about this deck, is that Greffer Armed Wing is very forcing. Your opponent has to play their cards, or else they just get run over. They can't really play very passively. And then once their cards are forced, they're forced to play their cards, you can stick a Vanities, and they've already played usually their proactive removal stuff that deals with these types of monsters. So they attack over the Greffer. Again, respecting the Greffer. If Greffer sticks around for a turn, it can very easily lead to an OTK. He also has Compulsory for my Armed Wing, which I'm just going to summon Trooper, mill 3. I do hit Necrogarna very, very fortunately. We attack the Gale, and then we attack directly for 2300. Now, he does Compulsory our Armed Wing, and he does have access to some good cards here. Like, he does have Dark Arm Dragon, but in order to make it live, he'd have to commit his whole hand into my back row, which is not necessarily a good play. That being said, if he did do that, if he did commit his whole hand here, he would beat me. Most likely. Although we would probably, I don't know, maybe not. Hold up. Armageddonite, send Plague. Stack my body for, or stack Phoenix Wing for Plague. Synchro to Bryonic. Pitch Malicious. Bounce my back row. Malicious activate. Shuffle away the Phoenix Wing. Special Dark Arm Dragon. It's not even close to lethal. Yeah, and then we could Brain Control, and then, yeah, no, we'd come back into it. Yeah, we'd be fine. So yeah, he doesn't have enough juice to like make it happen here. So he goes Armageddon, send Plague, just trying to get set up for the next turn. Attacks the Card Trooper. We are going to use Necrogarna because I want my Card Trooper to stick around. That's another thing. We have Necrogarna to stop even additional pushes. I want to use my Necrogarna A to keep my Card Trooper around. More mills is good for me. And then on top of that, this can attack over the Armageddonite. It can apply additional pressure. It can become a tribute for my Vanity's Fiend if I need it to. And it makes my return slightly better to bring back Necrogarna. I could even do something like Card Trooper mill 3, return, bring out the Necrogarna, sack it for Vanity's Fiend, and go from there. So, on standby phase, we get Wind Blasted on the Card Trooper. This is to prevent us from like doing shit. If I was him, I probably would not have hit the Card Trooper here. I would have let my Armageddonite die. I would have used it on the back row, because now he really has nothing. Now he's just like out all of his ways to interact with me, and if my back row is even real, he can't play this game. So he's just cooked. We go ahead and Brain Control. This was probably a bit of an error, but I was thinking I want to Brain before return. I got like this weird like good player mentality where I'm like, oh, it's 400 less life points, or it becomes 400 life points or whatever if we Brain Control before return. But in all honesty, I should have returned, brought back Necrogarna, and then sacked that for the Vanity's Fiend, and then save my Brain for later, basically, because I think Brain is better later on. But this is fine too. We just sack for Vanities, and then he just doesn't have an out because he used all 3 of them. He has Brain Control, but since he discarded his Malicious, he doesn't have a tribute for it. We pick up our Card Trooper. This is going to put him below Brain range. So now he's at 700, and even if he does find a tribute, the Brain Control won't be able to be converted. Here he picks up Dark Greffer, but it's too little too late because Vanity's Fiend is just a house. So yeah, we win game 2. Again, a very sacky mirror. Like, I don't think either of us really played that like exceptionally well. I guess he just didn't respect Vanity's Fiend, but there's no real reason for him to, because it's usually at most a 1 of out of the sideboard or 2 of out of the sideboard. My list is playing full 3 copies, so I'm going to see it more consistently. You get the idea. This opening hand, we have some solid stuff. We have DD Crow, which can be good interactive piece. We have Heavy Storm to play through back row, and we have Greffer Vayu, which is just like obviously the best possible start for us. He sets a back row and passes. I go ahead and lead on Greffer, pitch Vayu, again getting greedy. I'm just being a greedy little Andy here. But at this point, I have a lot of intel on his deck. I know it's like Phoenix Wing compulsory, so I don't have to go for this Heavy Storm right now. I can just wait till later. If I go for the Heavy Storm right now, I'm kind of exposing myself to Gores. Next turn, what I'm thinking is I'll Heavy Storm, sack my Armed Wing for Vanities or Caius, and then just crush him. I have DD Crow to survive the turn, so I'm going to attack for 17, and then probably just pass. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. He has his own Greffer, though, which is really, really good here. He pitches Krebins. He goes ahead and sends another Krebins. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, if he Power Wells, what do I do? Do I DD Crow one of them, or do I save the Crow? Because I was like, if he Power Wells, he's doing one of two things. He's either making Bryonic. Sorry, not Bryonic. Yeah, Bryonic to pitch Malicious to bounce my Greffer, or he's making Goyo to steal my Greffer. And if he makes Goyo to steal my Greffer, then my hand naturally beats 2 level 6s, is what I was thinking. So I was thinking I don't Crow here. I save the Crow for later, because Powerwell on 2 Krebins and Powerwell on 1 Krebins is functionally the same, because I can beat Bryonic just as easily as I can beat everything else. Like, he can make Goyo regardless, basically. It's just a matter of whether or not he ends with Greffer or Bryonic in play, and that's like functionally the same given the composition of my hand, more or less. So he synchros into Goyo, and then he attacks over Dark Greffer. We go ahead and give him the Dark Greffer. He attacks for 12, but unfortunately, instead of making like another level 6 or just passing with this in play, he makes fucking Stardust, and our Heavy Storm is dead. Well, it's not dead, but it's forcing, but not in a good way. In any case, we pick up Vayu, which is like obviously the worst draw in our deck at this point, now that our Greffer's gone. And we have Heavy Storm. He chains Stardust, and I'm like, okay, we can maybe force him into a weird position where we summon Armed Wing. He thinks about whether or not he wants to use Compulse or Phoenix Wing, and then we go ahead and sack it for Caius, and we target the Greffer. So we've cleared his whole board now. As long as he doesn't have follow-up, like Dark Armed or another Greffer, we can actually just chill and then eventually stick this Vanities Fiend and be okay. That's if he has no follow-up, basically. I can attack with the Caius pretty safely because he's not going to out the Caius. He's not going to spend a card on it because he thinks he has Stardust coming back. So there's no reason for him to waste a whole card on this Caius. He's just going to take the damage instead. We are going to DD Crow the Stardust, but it doesn't matter because he has Dark Arm Dragon, and that's that. This matchup is so miserable because it really is just whoever draws the more power cards just wins, and his deck definitely has more power cards than mine, Powerwell being one of them. I think it was correct to save the Crow because functionally, unless he has more back row and chooses to make Stardust, which is a gamble I'm taking, functionally 2 Krebins is the same as 1 because he just makes Goyo and he takes my Greffer either way. So I was thinking, okay, as long as like he doesn't make Stardust and have more back row, then it's better to save the Crow for a later play. And then if he goes like Bryonic, pitch Malicious, target my Greffer, something like that, try to OTK me, I can chain DD Crow to the Malicious, and then, or not to the Malicious, sorry, chain DD Crow to the Bryonic activation, banish the Malicious, and then he just has Bryonic plus whatever the fuck else, Krebins in play versus my Greffer that's now back in my hand, which I can pitch to special, and then I can sack for either Vanities or Caius or whatever. It gives me more plays, basically. So I was thinking if I just hold the Crow there, it is correct. Either way, I think we were losing had we held it or used it. It doesn't really make a fucking difference because he would have Goyo taken our dude. We could Heavy Storm. We could sack for... I guess we would have won. But that's assuming he doesn't have Malicious in hand or have like some other card that he wants to pitch with Vayu there, or pitch with Bryonic there. It's kind of hard to tell. It's like a 50-50, but a little bit more 50-50 than you would think. In any case, we have some plays we could make here, but it doesn't really matter because he has 2 trap cards, so you can't really play through those, unfortunately. And yeah, that's pretty much how this mirror match goes. Dark Arm Dragon, pretty fucking strong card. All right, last replay for y'all is against Souls Kajir. Against Souls Kajir, I lose the rock, paper, scissors, of course. I stay losing the rock, paper, scissors. I got an opening hand with my 1-of Shura. I will say in my list, I sided out Shura and Blizzard in almost every match. So I don't think you should play these cards. I think you can replace them with like literally anything else and it's fine. The Shura might be okay, but like you could replace these 2 cards with literally anything and it might be better. I just wanted extra threats, like extra 1-card threats. I thought Blizzy would be really nice to have as like a 1-of, because you could like randomly send a Shura off Armageddon and then you just have Blizzy, and Blizzy is a 1-card level 6, which is just really strong. But I don't know. I think you also need another tuner to make full use of the mind control, but I don't know if that's like the tuner you want to play, or if you want to play like Eteli Krebins, or I don't really know exactly what you want to do. In any case, we do get to show off some of the new tech here. I go ahead and wrote up for Armageddon Knight. I could attack into that, but if it's a Raikou, I get fucking pwned, and then my Nobleman doesn't get used. So I'm going to go Armageddon, send Necro. This is just set up for a Caius play next turn. I'm going to knock his set monster. I'm going to attack for 14, and then I'm going to set Royal Decree. He's going to drop Trag, but that's fine. Wait, I should show his hand too. He switches the Tragodia to attack. At this point, I didn't even notice his deck was 60 cards because he's dropped 2 limited cards, and I'm like focusing on what's in play. He attacks the Armageddon Knight. I use Necro Gardener because like if he doesn't have a level 4, he can't steal my Armageddon Knight. And then I can just sack it for Caius and out his Trag. End phase, I go for Royal Decree, which is really nice to shut off all his back row. I pick up Burial, which could also be potentially a really good draw down the line. I sack for Caius, just clear the Trag. I could have summoned Shura and crashed, but I didn't really like that play. I think Shura has more value later on if he sets another Recruiter. So we attack for 34. Well, 1,000 from the damage, and then, yeah. He has his own Gale, so he's played 3 limited cards in 60, which is pretty crazy. Attacks over the Caius. We take 100, but Shura eats this for breakfast. Sirocco, also a pretty good draw. Shura's going to attack over the Gale. It's going to grab us a Vayu, and then Vayu's going to attack for 800. I decided to leave both in play because like he can out one of them, he can't out the other one unless he has like specifically Brain Caius, and then we can sack the other one for the Caius that's in our hand and just win the game. He sets a monster, sets a back row, passes a turn. I sack for Sirocco. If he has Book of Moon, it is annoying, but yeah, I synchro into Bryonic, and then I use Bryonic to pitch Vayu to bounce the monster. Every fucking time I synchro with the Vayu off of Shura, someone in the comment section says, you can't do that. Yes, you can, because the effect is negated by Shura. We pitch, we activate Vayu, and then we attack with everything. Yeah, cool. Game 2, we're going second again. We open up with our Dust Shoot and a bunch of Sirocco Vayu garbage, but we do have Brain Control Dust Shoots. It's probably fine. He goes charge, and he mills some more powerful cards. I'm like, damn, this guy's got a powerful deck. Got some heat in it. Sets Raikou, sets Hand Destruction, passes the turn. Now, Hand Destruction is an interesting card. You'll see why he's playing it here in a second. Same thing with the Gravity Bind. We go ahead and summon the Sirocco, attack into his Raikou. It's going to blow up the Sirocco, mill 3. Chaos Sorcerer, Lady in the White, and that's why he's playing 60 cards plus Hand Destruction and Card Destruction, because he is playing 60 cards Skull Servant, Lightsworn Zombies. We go ahead and set our Trap Dust Shoot. Here we're going to be able to Trap Dust Shoot him. Even though he only has 2 Darks, I'm always taking the Dark Arm there. Lila and Aaron don't really do anything. If he summons Lila, we can always Brain Control it and use it to pop the Gravity Bind. Giant Trinate's not doing anything. We have no back row. Aaron's not doing anything. I'm not setting any monsters, so here we are. He goes ahead and summons Aaron. End phase mills 3, plays around the Gores, and he does mill Mizuki, which is really lucky. There's only 1 Mizuki in 60, and it's really, really good in this deck. We do pick up Heavy Storm, which is nice. That can eventually out the Gravity Bind. You don't really want to play it here. Just going to summon the Sirocco and attack his Aaron. Because he didn't set the Gravity Bind, I thought that his back row might have been real, but apparently it wasn't, so here we are. Sets Raikou, sets the back row, passes turn, we draw, and now we can Heavy Storm because he didn't shuffle his hand. So I know the card he drew for turn was a monster he set in play, plus even if he had set that monster in play, I would know that it wasn't Delilah, that he was the only other option. You get where I'm going with this. Heavy Storm, going to chain Hand Destruction, let us discard our Vayu, our Armageddon Knight. Probably should have discarded the Greffer there instead of the Armageddon Knight. It's more or less the same thing, but Greffer might cost me an extra card, which it ends up doing. I go ahead and Greffer, pitch Send for Plague, stack for Plague, activate the Vayu, make Dark End pop his monster, and then attack with everything. I figured I have DD Crow for anything he wants to do with that Mizuki, and then I have Hella Pressure in play. This is a ton of life points, and Brain Control's on top of my deck. So I don't think I can lose this game, more or less. I basically put him in a really, really bad spot, and then, yeah, he's at 1800 facing down Brain Control. Here he actually goes for Pot of Avarice, But the Pot of Avarice shuffles back Dark Arm and leaves him with 2 Darks engraved, so I'm just like, fuck it, that can resolve. I'll save DD Crow for the Mizuki activation, because that's the thing that actually impacts the game. Even if he shuffles all these back, and let's say he draws that Dark Arm, it's like, who cares? If he draws Chaos Sorcerer, who cares? The Brain Control on top of my deck wins. If he draws anything else that is like a synchro play, I'd want to stop that with DD Crow. Or like if he Mizuki's, brings back Goblin, tries to Caius me, I'd want to stop that with DD Crow. Not that that would be a losing play anyway. Here he goes ahead, activates Zombie World, sets Heavy Storm, sets whatever, but it doesn't really matter at this point because I can just pop his monster with Dark End and then attack with everything. And that's going to be the game. His deck looks really sweet. I think you could probably make a Skull Servant deck, like a 50-card Skull Servant deck, be pretty good. I think there's some merit to the King of the Skull Servants. It's a very slept-on card. It's one of the only threats, like huge monsters you can summon, that is bad when it's brain controlled, is something that I was thinking about. Like a 5,000 Skull Servant, King of the Skull Servants, when your opponent brain controls it, it just becomes a 0/0. So it's kind of unique in that way that it like naturally plays around brain control. Also being a 1-star means they can't really like take it and then synchro with it very effectively. It is a cool card. It is a cool card, and it's a cool deck that I think doesn't see enough play. It could see a bit more play probably. Maybe not this 60 card like all in crazy like every card on the ban list version, but it could definitely see a little bit more play than this. In any case, this is the Vayu Turbo deck that I was playing today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next vid. Peace.